Is that enough?
All right, that's plenty. That's
Okay.
good. We're good. Thank you.
What a great Friday morning and a great tune to start and get us in the groove and ready to roll into the day, right?
Yeah, right. Amen.
Amen. So you can't go wrong with Nick your Nick Vince Guaraldi. Can't go wrong with Vince Guaraldi on that on a Friday morning. So Nick, welcome. Glad you're with us.
Kevin. Oh, it's a privilege to be here after watching the show for a long time, and the amount of time that we've spent together pontificating on the industry, Kevin. I'm excited for today.
That is one of my favorite words related to all of this is pontificating in that setting. Nick, tell us where you are today.
I'm calling from Richmond, Virginia, based out of here in Richmond. Been here for a long time, so I'm sitting at my desk, blurred background because I got my son's 3D printer going in the background here.
Oh, cool.
But that's where we are calling from today. You're on the other side of the country, I believe.
We are. It's supposed to be in the 84 degrees here today.
There you go. Yeah, we'll take our high of 57, Kevin.
Well,
I would trade you. I'll take the 57 over the 85.
I'm not done with winter yet. So
well, I think you're lucky. Punxsutawney Phil didn't see a shadow, so we still got a couple more weeks here.
Yeah, just not feeling like it here. So I'm in South Orange County. Tom's up in Ventura. He was here this week. I'll see him up there next week, and all good. So here we are again. This is week number 179 or episode 179. We're probably about week 190 since we started doing all of this. But I'm Kevin Brown, and I'm here with my good friend Nick Pericle and Tom Burton. Tom and I get together every week. Nick is one of the great guests that we have on an ongoing basis. We look forward to having guests with us. And we talk about the news of the week as it relates to wholesale distribution and manufacturing. So we get together on our show here Around the Horn in Wholesale Distribution, and we talk about the newsletter that we publish of the same title. And we try and look at what's going on in the economy and supply chain. We look at sales and marketing and AI and robotics and cybersecurity and overall manufacturing and distribution. We look at the news as it all comes together, and we try and apply that back to what's the impact of what's going on with robotics, as an example, on wholesale distribution. Obviously, we've been talking a lot lately about tariffs and things within the economy, and we'll spend some time on that today. So if you're first time with us today, we're very happy to have you. If you're watching us on the live stream, which is live every Friday morning at 9 o'clock Pacific, on YouTube Live, LinkedIn Live, and Facebook Live, then you will see these three handsome faces. And but you'll also be able to see the newsletter that we're going to be talking about off and on throughout the day and those articles. If you are listening on the recorded podcast, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, Amazon, wherever that might be, and you're listening in maybe on your afternoon or morning walk or whatever it might be in drive time, which many people do, then you won't be able to see that newsletter. But if you'd like to get that newsletter, we would love to send that to you. There's over 10,000 people get that each week, and that's growing every week. That list is growing. We would be happy to send it to you. You can do that in three simple ways. You can request that simply at hello@leadsmarttech.com. Again, hello@leadsmarttech.com, and we'll get that out to you right away. You can very easily, if you're active on LinkedIn, just search for the Around the Horn and Wholesale Distribution newsletter. That'll pop up. You can also access that through the Lead Smart Technologies LinkedIn page on the far right side. It'll say newsletter. Click that and subscribe. Or we have a website for the podcast, which is www.aroundthehornpod.com. See past episodes there, as well as sign up for the newsletter and subscribe. So that's the way you'll want to get that. We're happy to do that. We tend to forget sometimes as we're talking through the day that the largest part of our audience is not live with us this morning, but is listening to the recorded version later on. So we're appreciative of that. In doing this each week, and unfortunately, it's not free to put a show on, so we need a sponsor. And the company that Tom and I work for, Lead Smart Technologies, is our sponsor. And Lead Smart is a company that developed a product called the Channel Cloud, which is a AI-enabled customer intelligence and what we describe as smart CRM solution solely developed for wholesale distributors and manufacturers. We've taken 30 plus years of experience in wholesale distribution and manufacturing, as well as Tom's background in technology, and built a solution where we help wholesale distributors and manufacturers kind of ban and get rid of the silos as we describe them in their business. We bring information from across the business, ERP, marketing automation, other data sources, data lakes that they might have data in. And we bring that together so we get a holistic view of the business, and not just the sales side of the business, but the overall business. So we get deep understandings of customers, our overall team, and our overall business on a single platform. And we do that in a way where we use many different technology tools, including artificial intelligence, to uncover and send push notifications and so forth about growth opportunities and even potential risks in the business. So if your company is digitally transforming, looking for the future, trying to get your arms around what it means to become an agentic business in the future, then we have a platform and a technology that will bring those agents and things together to help you gain insights into your business. So we would love to talk to you about that, which leads us right into our good friend Nick, who's with us today. And maybe, Nick, you could tell us about your new venture at Tenexity and what's going on with that briefly, and then we'll dive into the news.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Kevin. So what we're doing at Tenexity and what I'm spending all my time on is helping organizations, distributors figure out, what does this whole AI thing mean for me? What type of policy do we need to have in place? What type of governance model? How do we get our people thinking bigger, more ambitiously, while not getting over our skis and making sure we can still run the business day in and day out? And so that's where we are spending our time today, is helping companies put that in place and then execute on it. What does that actually mean when we go and need to build things, put new processes in place, implement new technologies? So really fortunate to be working with a couple great organizations as we get this off the ground. And I'll tell you, we're 2 months into 2026, Kevin and Tom, but man, it feels like 2 years. Like, we've gone through a lot. I mean, Kevin, we were together in DC a month ago, and you could tell me it was 6 months ago. Like,
agreed. Yeah, I was just thinking about that because we had a really nice one. We spent some time chatting at the event, and we were some of the people that were able to make it in for that great NAW Executive Summit. And then we had a nice evening, a nice dinner with Pierre, our good friend from Moblico and lead smart partner at Moblico. Yep. Nice evening together. But yeah, I totally agree. It's like, it's a blur. And and at my age, I need every moment. They can't go too fast.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, so the two ways that we look at, AI, there's it's a huge topic, a lot goes into it. We try and focus on what's going to change, but also stay grounded in what's going to stay the same. What's going to stay the same in the industry and how companies operate and what customers expect. Bringing those together and spending a lot of time looking at what's happening outside of the industry and then transposing it onto the organizations that we work with. So having a lot of fun talking to great companies. And I'll tell you, more and more people are starting to get over that hump where they're saying, all right, this AI thing doesn't seem to be going away. We gotta figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not a fad, huh?
I think marketing teams of a lot of like large technology companies they don't do a good service to the word AI. I'll put it that way.
Well, I have a quick question before we move on for you, Nick. You mentioned governance, right? And we spend a lot of time working with our customers on and really taking the seriousness of governance, but security and I guess guardrails could be another way of looking at it. Do you see that is becoming something that the companies are more aware of and taking more seriously? Because we see a lot of early adopters with AI kind of ignoring some of that sometimes. And I think there's a lot of potential risk downstream with that.
What I see happening, Tom, is either organizations, I call it, they take the co-pilot way out, where they say, our AI governance is co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Microsoft's handling it.
We're not going to get in trouble, right?
Microsoft's handling it. We're not going to get in trouble. And if we do, we can call our Microsoft rep, which if they pick up the phone.
Okay.
So I see the co-pilot way out. And when we talk about that and we say like, all right, what are you getting from it? They say, well, it integrates into our systems. It's on our domain. It's secure. And I say, well, can you show me how it integrates into your systems? Most of the time organizations can't. Sure. So that's been, I think, the play that a lot of companies have had, distributors have had over the last 2-3 years. As you start getting into buying technology platforms that have AI integrated into it, as you look at other LLM providers that you're just using chat for or building with as well, I think that's where the aperture opens up a lot faster than any other type of technology up to this point, where you got to start thinking about, all right, what are each of their data retention policies? What's their data training policies? If I'm going to go work with a new organization out of Silicon Valley, a lot of which are doing incredible things, like mind-blowing things, What's their policy? What are they doing with their data if I'm going to be one of the design partners for them? So being prepared to do all of that while recognizing that it's not like normal cybersecurity, normal ERP maintenance and integrations has stopped. It's just added on top of it. I see companies saying, all right, if we're going to do this, let's make sure we do it right. That's what I see playing out.
Good.
So they typically need some guidance as well as the right partners. I mean, what you made a great point earlier that I thought was really important is working on these things while still trying to run an organization, right? And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that you probably see in the work that you've been doing with your former company and your new company is people are, right? You're talking any, I mean, I just look at it as LeadSmart, right? At LeadSmart, we work with companies from 30, $40 million up to multi-billion dollar companies and everything in between. There's a number to drive to every single day that
as there should be, right? As there should be.
There's got to be, right? They got to where they're at. They achieved what they've achieved by doing some very, very good things, regardless of their size. But now we're looking at what does the future hold. And I think I love it that you comment about this. And I was going to ask you a question. I don't think I've ever asked it to you in this way, but
let's do it live in front of a whole bunch of our friends.
That's right. Why not? We tend to do this, and there's maybe a little provocative sometimes. Here's my question from your travels, and I'll throw it out to Tom as well. You mentioned Silicon Valley companies coming in, right? So we're seeing phenomenal tools that are coming in place. We're seeing a mix of really good technology that's coming in and becoming available for wholesale distributors and manufacturers. And then I think we're also, if we're honest with ourselves, we're seeing there are also companies that are somebody developed a technology and went and found a market for it.
Oh yeah.
Right. As opposed to, hey, you know what? I am purpose building something for a specific industry. They came up with an idea and then found a home. And that's not necessarily always wrong. I think the challenge that organizations are facing right now is twofold in this setting. Is that one is you could very easily fall into a trap of, not a trap, but a challenge of grasping onto something and saying, this sounds great, I'm going to plug it into my organization. And we end up potentially with the same AI silos that we have with traditional tech silos, where they're not talking, because most importantly to this is organizations don't have a plan of what they want to achieve and accomplish. And some people I think are rushing to the place that says, well, I need to get on this bandwagon because my board is asking about it, or, I went to a conference or whatever it might be. That's first component I'll throw out onto the table. The second part of it is that I'll throw out on the table for discussion, then we'll get into the news here, is I also go to a lot of events, and we see each other at many of these events, Nick, and I hear CEOs of very large organizations make comments about, well, we have 6 AI solutions in HR in our company. But rarely is it referenced, are they trialing it? Is it a quick test? Is it functioning? Do they have guardrails? Do they have policies? And so sometimes I get a feel out there, and this is where I could be a little bit, somebody could throw some rocks at me, I guess, and I'll welcome them too. But I wonder if some of the success that we're hearing about is as deep of success versus, hey, this is what we got started with.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. What we're trying with. I mean, I'll say it this way. I'm going to zoom out here. A big thing that I'm on, focus area that I'm on for probably the last 4 or 5 months, Kevin, is thinking about the technology procurement process in our industry. And I am convinced that it has to change. What do I mean by that? Historically, technology procurement decisions have taken anywhere from 3 to 12 plus months. I know I've been in some that are longer than that. And for reasons that we all are aware of, the distributors are focusing on, they need to make sure that they're hitting their numbers. Margin is precious and it needs to be allocated appropriately. And There are not allowances to get it wrong. What's happening now is technology is changing too quickly. There's an abundance of choice. The number one concern that I'm getting from digital leaders is I'm getting hit up every single day. There are more options for every type of solution than I've ever had. And I can't get back to everybody. Like I don't have an evaluation criteria. And so procurement on identifying, quickly assessing, quickly onboarding, and then driving adoption, I think is what it's a muscle that organizations are going to have to develop in order to do this more effectively. So that's something that what you're talking about there spurs a thought for me. The second one, it's very easy to talk like, hey, we're doing these AI solutions. I wouldn't even know how to quantify, like, we have an AI solution in place. Like, when you say 6, are those 6 custom GPTs? Is it you have 6 people doing prompts? Is it you have 6 agreements with 6 vendors? And so I don't mean to throw shade in that area. I don't know how you do that. I'd love a formula.
Right.
If you have it. Yeah.
No, and I mean, I've talked to some people, some digital and executive leaders at some events. Specifically, you know, we have at Leadsmart, we have a wonderful partnership with the folks at Affiliated Distributors, and some of those events where and this I could like name like 3 of these conversations where an executive can say, we're doing A, B, C, and D. We have contracts related to this.
Yeah.
These systems are talking successfully, and it's driving this result.
Yeah. Well, I know, Kevin, like one thing that you and I are passionate about, and again, we'll get to the news here. Don't mean to go into the AI section. Integration on business processes and data has been, it's not new. Everyone knows that it's something that can and should be done. I say should, you know, with my quotes here. Most organizations have not done that because they have not seen the benefit outweigh either the capital cost or, frankly, just like the mind share cost that needs to go into doing this. And many organizations that have invested in a data warehouse or a data lake or these connectivity and API integrations and things like that, they haven't seen the benefit. Now there is a very clear benefit on the other side. And so, yes, API first, making sure that your data talks to each other. And I'll tell you where it really clicks. And if you're a digital leader listening to this, once you start operating out of systems that are truly agentic, like Claude Code, like Codex, where you can control systems through natural language, and you recognize that modern AI tooling, like in the last 2 months, is only as good as the integrations that it has. You don't want to go back to doing something that doesn't have that. Like for me, I'm not using a project management system that I have to go write tickets manually in. If it doesn't integrate into the agentic tooling that I'm using with Claude Code and Codex and Cursor in some of these areas, I'm shutting down that subscription. I'm moving. So like, I'm not using Jira. I moved over to Linear for my project management as a simple example, because I don't want to write tickets anymore. I don't think you have to. I think the AI can go, you can orchestrate it. And that's one example, let alone ERPs, CRMs, WMS, things like that.
Yeah, it's table stakes for sure, right? Accessibility of your data through APIs, right? You know, there's a lot of ERPs out there that charge a large amount of money for APIs and shut down things. And
my word,
I think that those days are.
And I wonder if that's got to change, Tom.
But it has to change. It has to change.
What's going to drive that though? Like, what do you think is the tipping point on that?
I'm going to throw this into this discussion. I just read something the other day, right? Remember, going back to your comment earlier, Nick, is how fast things are moving. It seems like 2 years ago, but wasn't it 6 months ago that MCP servers were going to change the world?
Yeah.
And now I just read something the other day that says they're probably pointless in the near future, right? So the question back to Tom's point about a lot of companies, specifically the ERP.
Did we lose him, Tom?
I think so.
Yeah.
But that's a nice look too.
You know what? The goatee's looking really good there. Well, I think what Kevin was going on with, if I can complete his thought, is this idea on MCP servers and things like that. I think it's just demonstrative that it's hard to build a roadmap for a technology, like for what your technology platform needs to look like and feel confident that it's going to be the same in 12 months. Like that, there are
That's a good
core
point.
themes that will not change, that like stay same and should be your core pillars. But then you have to be agile and adaptive. And frankly, I think every organization should have somebody that you say, hey, I want you to spend 90 minutes every week, not all at once, but throughout the week, reading. Go listen to a couple of podcasts. There's a couple of great YouTubers that are talking about what Silicon Valley companies are doing, so that we don't have to act on it right away, but we're at least keeping our thinking modern.
Yep.
But I think related to that, Nick, is you said this in the beginning, there are some fundamentals that regardless of what is the next shiny object of the day are not going to go away.
Will not change.
Right. And I think we've hit on a few of these already, right? Data accessibility across platforms and so forth. Just readiness in general, data readiness and so forth in general. What are your governance plans or your guardrails or your security for those things? You know, I keep harping to Kevin. I said, we need to do more with our customers about readiness, because even if you invest time and money right now in readiness, that's an investment that's going to have perpetuity for you versus something that could be ripped and replaced a minute later with the next shiny object. So, you know, the platform and having those fundamentals in place, and even you mentioned, you know, process and SOPs. Companies have invested in those for years or talked about them, and they just get thrown into a SharePoint document.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
But now they're so essential, right? Because otherwise, if you don't do that, the AI does not have the context of your business to know how to make the proper recommendations or the proper actions. So I think there's some fundamentals on those things.
I'll go back to, I don't know why I glitched there for a moment, but where I was kind of headed with that is, and this is an interesting component of this, right? And Nick, I'd be interested if you're seeing the same thing we see, is the center of the universe for organizations has historically been, the single source of truth has been ERP.
Of course it has, yeah.
Right. And we have kind of an internal philosophy in our company that ERP, while you can't operate a distribution or manufacturing company without it, is a single source of data amongst many sources of data that shows you your customer's journey with you. In fact, ERP is a snapshot of a singular transaction or a group of transactions at a point in time in a rear view mirror. And your customer is taking marketing journeys with you. They're taking e-commerce journeys with you. If you have a CRM in place, there's a journey that your customer is taking that should be in your CRM from that interaction about the missed shipment or the damaged product or the sales call, how those things went. Those are all data sources. Historically, we've lived in the world that Tom described, where, you know, you've got in different ERP companies are varying in reasonableness in this. Some are amazingly proud of average APIs that are ridiculously expensive. So now you're living in this world where if you need access to that data, you probably have some potential customers of either one of our companies who are very cautious about dealing with access to that, but yet they're getting inundated day in and day out with companies who want to bring them a new AI related product or a machine learning product that now needs access to that. And dealing with ERP related stuff is, we see it every day, as people like, it's scary to them. Right.
Yeah.
And I think we're at this place very soon where APIs and how APIs are used are going to change, because it's going to be so much simpler to unify and harmonize data is where we're going to get to very quickly.
Yeah. A lot that I could share on that. Let's jump into the news, and then I'm sure that we'll.
Well, Tom's got something to share here real quick. I can.
I think we need to move on to the news, right?
Oh, wait. Come on. Don't you want to talk about the weather some more?
Talk about the weather? Yeah.
Dive in, Tom. Let's get it started. What do you want to talk about first? Anything going on with tariffs?
Yeah, let's go to AI. Oh, no, we'll do economy first. So economy and supply chain. A week ago on this show, I think it was just an hour or two after the Supreme Court made the announcement, Nick, Kevin, and I were trying to kind of keep up with everything that
hadn't
talked when we were on. In fact, I think he talked like 5 minutes after we wrapped up on the show here. But a week ago, it was the tariffs were ruled illegal under the current policy, the Emergency Act, and you can never remember the IEEPA as they call it.
Yep.
It's there. So then I guess immediately they enacted Section 122.
Which
And
you heard it here first.
yeah, well, we said that. We did say that was going to happen.
Mhm. Absolutely.
And we said it was going to be 15%. And then he came out and said 10%.
Started at 10. Yeah, well, that was more of the watch what my next move is, right?
Right.
Yep.
I'll start at 10 and then watch what happens. Because
So the only thing I could think of is he did 10 and then he listened to the show. And he's like, well, that's smart. Why don't I go 15? And then decided to go to 15. That's the only thing I can.
because 15 is the cap on 122.
Right.
There we go.
Right. But so, I didn't get a thank you note or anything, but I'm thinking that's what occurred.
You're going to get a $2,000 check.
That's true. Well, no, I'm not, because then I don't have any money.
Nick, I will tell you, and I'm going to pat ourselves on the back a little bit. I don't know if you caught any of last week's show, but Tom's. I'm the late night person, and Tom's the early to bed and early morning person. So
You got around the clock between the two of you.
yeah, and so we are. It's right. We're just missing a few hours there, and but I woke up at 6:45, which is my normal, and I've got a message from Tom that's like, "Hey, Supreme Court struck it down." And then, man, now we're both on CNBC and CNN and 3 or 4 other sources that we check. And Tom doesn't normally listen to the news. He's an anti-news person, and he was listening closely. And I have to say, and probably because we put a lot of time and energy into it, but pat ourselves on the back a little bit. When we're listening to the journalists, specifically on CNBC, all the stuff they talked about what might happen next and what would come out of this are things we had talked about 2 months ago. And so it made us feel pretty good that, a couple of knuckleheads in California that, have been talking heads for 179 episodes had been talking about all the same stuff. So,
yeah, running circles around the economists on the cable.
There
news
we
shows.
go.
Yeah.
As we say, we'd like to pretend to be economists, but
Yeah.
so here's where we're at, right? So Supreme Court said, nope, you can't use the Emergency Powers Act. That doesn't work. As we talked about pre-show with this, is that it does not appear they were asked to make any distinction or rulings on refunds or rebates of that. One of the dissenting opinions did comment about the struggle that would be. So now we have this whole scenario going on where it's been struck down, right? There was, I think we had a graphic last week. There was 4 other options that they could go to, and they went to the quickest one, which is the 122 on this. The cap on that is 15%. It is, I believe it's 6 months. I don't know if either one of you remember.
150 days.
Yeah, 150 days. So
150 days.
July 24th. Yep.
Yep. And that can be extended by Congress. And then they have the other options where they can use Federal Trade Commission and other government resources to go and do research that could come back and allow those to happen. So anything else from either of you on? So we have articles here from Reuters, another one from on one tariff, many questions, trade policy uncertainty, and then a NBC News article about the EU kind of hitting the brakes and hitting pause. And part of this is like, what does this mean to the trade deals that have already been struck?
Yeah.
I'll throw that out.
One thing that you're not hearing a lot about, I don't, in my limited news watching, I'm not hearing a lot about, is the fact that 150 days is like, as we just talked about, a blink
Next
of an
week.
Yeah.
eye. And it is not likely, based on the homework that I've been doing, that Congress will extend this, right? Think about that. And
Yeah.
there are still even a lot of Republicans that maybe silently or very covertly are not in favor of the tariffs,
Mhm.
right? They may not come out and say it. So I think the odds of a congressional extension is probably not very high. So can they get all the other pieces together in those 150 days so that there is some form of tariff that's continuing? Or is there going to be a gap or whatever? But no one seems to be talking about that this 15% is not a permanent thing.
I think what I've seen play out just among the conversations that I've been aware of and some of the strategies I've seen happen is This has been forced diversification on the supplier side, something that many organizations either have not done due to bandwidth constraints, and this has been a massive source of I mean, no surprise, but massive source of disruption.
Mhm.
Like when the news came out on Friday, I had a couple of conversations that I was planning on having this week, and it's like, hey, let's push those out. Frankly, I don't know where this is going to go. I know NAW put out a statement where they're saying, hey, we got to put these trade agreements together. Our industry requires stability.
Mhm.
Like you cannot switch a supplier quickly within like that doesn't happen within 90 days to get all of that together. So I think this is going to continue to be a time where making some changes in terms of how you price things, continuing to keep your customer relationship strong. It is going to eat into margins. Continue to. I don't think the end is in sight yet.
Oh, I think we've got a long way to go with this. And you know, the interesting thing is, and Nick, I'll share this with you, just get your feedback because you're every day, all day. You do most of your work with distributors versus manufacturers, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yep. So, you know, the question with all of this, I think, is why is my phone beeping when I have it on do not disturb? I think the question is, and we have an article here, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, right? There's been 1,800, I believe, lawsuits. We have an article in here that mentions that have been filed so far. FedEx has come out and said, and I think this is, we should dive into this a little bit more, but I'll ask a question first. But FedEx has said, hey, we're going to pass all of this on to the consumer, right? The Treasury chief has said, okay, FedEx, show us how you're going to do that. You know, because I think FedEx's situation here is very much posturing to get people behind and consumer sentiment behind pushing on for the rebates. Of course, I'll go back to the same thing, right? Is we've talked about this a number of times related to the $200 million lawsuit that Costco filed. I think it was in early January. With this is, okay, Costco, right? I can't get to the interstate without passing a Costco, right? It's at the bottom of the hill from my house. And we spend too much time there. So how do I get those dollars back? And the reason I say that is it transfers over to your comment about, you know, you having phone calls with distributors that got pushed out because of all of this last week. Is if I'm a distributor and I had line items that either say, one, here's your price increase in an email because of tariffs, for two, there's a line item in an invoice, but regardless, prices are up. We've had distributors here say that we've talked to have said, hey, we're eating a little bit of it. We've had other distributors that have been on the show in person say, hey, you know what? We're passing every penny of it on. So it's okay. Well, manufacturer got hit with a tariff. Distributor got hit with a price increase. Distributor passed price increase on to customer, say contractor in this setting. Yeah. Just use an HVAC distributor as an example. He passed it on to his contractor. Contractor passed it on to homeowner or business that they work, commercial business that they work with. Where does that flow go? Now, Tom has said, and it's probably right, it doesn't. It's just going to stop at the manufacturer. But is that equitable?
I don't know. I'm going to retract that. I'm going to retract that a little bit, because what it looks like is occurring, and this is what the FedEx article is about, is, okay, all these companies are 1,800. It'll probably be 5,000 by the next week we start, are filing lawsuits to get a refund. I think what the administration is doing is, okay, for us to even consider settling or working something out with you, you need to come up with your plan on what you're going to do with that money that is quote unquote equitable. I think they would definitely like to see some of that money end up into ultimately the consumer's hands. Right? Because think about that. That's a really nice stimulus potentially for the consumer, but also upstream, right, from the distributor and so forth. So in the example of Costco, which is a big suit, I wouldn't be surprised if they said, okay, fine, we'll negotiate some agreement where we return all or some of the tariffs. However, you need to lay out your plan of how much of that is going back to the consumer and how much of that is going to what place. And if we think that seems equitable, then we'll move forward. Now, of course, some companies won't do it, and they'll backpedal and things like that. But if you look at how everything operates in this administration, it's a negotiation, and then they try and figure out how to negotiate it in a way that potentially maybe there's some upside all the way around. And so, yeah, there's an opportunity here where you could end up with a fair amount of liquidity, not only at the consumer level, but at different levels in the food chain along the way.
So let me ask you both this question. At the end of the day, who paid the tariffs?
Whoever brought the products into the U.S.
Whoever brought them in. I mean, that's where cash actually left hands. Everything else was a second to nth order effect.
But at the end of the day, who paid the tariffs?
I mean, what we're talking about is American consumers. That's what all the reports come from.
Exactly right. So who deserves the rebate?
So,
Is it ABC Manufacturing that, or a better example would be, is it Fran's Beauty Salon who had to have an HVAC contractor, an electrical contractor come in and do the work on her facility, and she had 4 layers passing on prices to her because one company in China paid a tariff to the U.S. government?
I think this is something that's going to take a while to work itself out. And
I think this is years before we see, potentially years before we see dollars transfer.
No, this is not years before we see. Now, there'll be a pecking order, right? So some of the larger companies, like FedEx is an example, but I think you'll see some settlements here within.
It'll have to happen faster, is what you think, Tom?
Yeah.
So one thing that made me laugh in the Supreme Court brief, I mean, I did not read everything.
Do you want me to give you access to my agent that has it loaded in?
Well, we could read all of it, Kevin.
Yeah.
But one thing that
I seriously, we dropped it into an agent. We have an agent for the show,
and it reviewed
or
it, yeah.
GPT for the show, I should really say. I think you wrote something recently, didn't you, about what's really an agent?
Oh yeah, well, we'll get into that. But
yeah,
one thing
this is a GPT, not an agent.
It's okay. So this made me laugh. In one of the briefings, they said, "Well, refunds are theoretically possible," and then it was this part where they said, "Because the data is computerized." And I go, these people are like some of the smartest legal minds that have ever existed, and we're talking about how the data is computerized. I guarantee you the data work, you talk about integrations and data silos on this, Kevin, whether it's the guys from Doge or whether it's some the big 4 consulting firms are about to make bank on organizing all of that just in order to put together the data set for analysis.
Okay.
On how
so
you
now
do this.
let me throw this back to you, my friend, because you shared some of the notes that I thought I had recorded and I didn't. You shared your notes. We sat in a room with about 100 other people a month ago, roughly, and we sat down and we listened to the Secretary of Transportation,
Sean Duffy,
talk for 45 minutes. And what did he talk about the government, specifically the FAA's computer system, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. We've got government groups that are, working on Windows Vista, or whatever it might be, right? So, or older technology than that. So for somebody to say, well, it's one thing to say that, yeah, we know and we have a transactional record of where it went, but then what do you do with it?
Yeah. I mean, so here again, I want to keep going on with the show because a lot of good stuff to talk about. But one thing that I've had my eye on for the last, again, my sense of time is it last week or maybe 2 weeks. So the Department of Health and Human Services released a data set that is at the facility procedure level for the last couple of years. I mean, is it last 10 years?
Oh.
The Medicaid spend and Medicaid procedures. And so they actually go down to the facility, like the actual doorknob of where these things are happening, 10 gigabytes of data. You can go download it. It's in CSV format. I don't know if that type of information has ever been made open source so that people can go and analyze and work with. My previous organization and people that I know do a lot of work within medical distribution. Man, people have had a heyday analyzing this type of information. I wonder if it, wouldn't make sense to consider something like that, or if, the kimono might be too open at that point to be like, oh, the damage is actually worse than we thought. So interesting kind of thing to think about.
I think it's a nice idea. I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think it'll happen.
You've got to know in this setting with what's going on right now that there are tons and tons of law firms, right, that are looking at this and saying, look, Costco, you get your $200 million and I have a class action suit of consumers that want to sign up for this to get that. I'm telling you, I think we're a long way out for dollars being transferred back. And I think here was the exact, and we have this article right here from Reuters from yesterday, 2 days ago, where the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he just threw a salvo right back at FedEx that says, hey, you know what? You ought to be able to figure out exactly what you're going to do with this and how you're going to handle this.
Exactly.
Right. And I think that was the administration's first salvo that says, not so fast.
So, hey, all right. I have a question for both of you. Kind of a poly market. Well, and I'll answer it as well. Poly market question. When do you think you will see the first significant refund go back to some entity, whether it's FedEx, Costco, whatever? When do you, because when that happens, it'll certainly be newsworthy. When do you think we will see that?
I'd say by midterms, by November.
Okay.
I think we'll see something by November.
Okay. Kevin?
I've got like 4 ways to answer this, but
You can only answer it one way. It's a simple answer.
Just when is it going to say they actually cut a refund to any entity?
That's right.
I would be surprised if it's this year. I think it's if it happens, and we all may be wiping our faces of being way wrong on this, because, or at least Nick and I, because we've made our statements. There could be something weird that happens, but the question would be, to go with that, if something happens sooner, I think it gets what happens with that gets locked up in court over other things. I'm going to say not this year.
I'm talking about money changing hands, not court cases saying they won or whatever, but somebody.
I'm going to say not this year.
Okay. I'm going more towards with Nick. It's definitely this year, and it's definitely under, it's before the midterms or sooner. I'd even go the under if I needed to on that. Yeah. But I think
the midterms are only 2 months from, right, or a month and a half from the new year. So we're all pretty close on that. If we're saying,
but are you thinking like January? Or are you thinking late 2020?
No, I don't. It's too hard.
Tom, you're holding Kevin's feet to the fire on this,
right?
Well, because he'll waffle on this. I want an answer. I want a clear answer.
I don't think that anything happens before the end of the first quarter of next year.
Okay. So March.
And I will tell you, I'm not convinced that there is going to be money getting transferred back. Right? We haven't talked at all today about the impact of putting however many billions of dollars back into the economy and the deficit issue, right? There are major factors of pumping this money back in. And by the way, we only saw, it was one of the articles, I don't know if I included it or not when I was looking through the articles, we only went like a few hours of not collecting tariffs, right? It went from some higher.
They couldn't even update the paperwork. Yeah.
I think there's 2 components to this, right? And I know, Tom, you have strong feelings to this. You've stated before is, that, oh, no problem, they have these simple records. I'm not convinced that the government knows how to work with those records, right? Of how they collected all that money and the ability to transfer it back. I am gonna, without trying to sound cloak and dagger or, too much of, what could be behind the scenes, is I think that comment from Scott Bessent about the FedEx scenario could be a salvo.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
But there was another article, if you remember, that the FedEx CEO already came back and answered the question.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's assume for a minute that the FedEx CEO.
I believe FedEx would know how to give the money back.
Right. Okay.
But I believe they probably have the systems.
Right. But let's just assume that they come back with a suitable response, which it sounds like they did. And then they go back to the government and say, okay, this is our plan. This is our strategy. Let's do it. Right. We'll pay up. And I think you're going to see that. And I think there will be money that will exchange hands, actual money, exchange hands from the government to an entity. I'm going to go out on a limb and say before the end of Q3, before September. And because I do think it'll be things like FedEx. And then of course, there's going to be a lot of these gray area places that are going to be way more difficult. I'm not suggesting that, but I think Costco and FedEx and some of these large companies can.
Well, you got to figure Walmart. I mean, think about where's Walmart in all this, right?
Walmart clearly
far bigger than
articulate what they did, right? They know where they know all of the things that are there. So
well, here's this is an interesting point, and I don't want to go dive too deep on this, but I'm getting ready to ask you both a hard question, and Nick's going to question his decision to join us today. So stop and look at this for a minute, Tom. We've talked about this before, right? And here's a major factor with this. And I want us to go back and think about, I'm going to use Walmart as an example first, but then let's go talk about, it doesn't matter if it's, Valens Industrial Supply or Granger or DSG or, good friends that we have in DSG or Lone Star Electric, or doesn't matter, right? Put them over here for a minute. Let's look at Walmart. Now, Walmart directly probably has not paid a tariff because they don't make anything. They have been likely, and let me rephrase that. They may have ownership in some of the manufacturers that private label some things or something like that. But the majority of what they have is the same thing as the distributors that I just mentioned, and all of the other wholesale distributors and the hundreds of thousands here in the US, is they had a cost passed on to them from a manufacturer, right? Or perhaps some places an importer in that setting. So how they were charged for that becomes critical. Because if it was just here is a price increase, then is that really tariff related or not? Or is there a line item that says tariff increase? Those are nuances that become very, very important for this in that setting. So I think that's where I think the rub with all of this comes is. So we've talked about it. We've all set a timeline. I don't think any of us disagree that or would disagree that there's big challenges this, no matter how you look at it. I'm going to ask you both a question. What's the best for the United States economy to happen? What's the best thing? Tom?
I'm gonna do a Kevin here and say it depends.
I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Apparently that's not allowed.
Yeah. Because
unless you're changing the rules, which
because you could argue that a stimulus into the economy, both at the business level and potentially at the consumer level, would be a positive thing. I would agree it could be a politically advantaged thing, to your point, Nick, about the midterms, right? As they could, the midterms are, both sides are both Democratic and Republican are like, there's never been a more important midterm potentially.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this is more important maybe than the election so that's a very, very critical event that's here. But I think you could, argue that it could be a stimulus. Of course, there could be inflationary ramifications and things like that on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, you could easily argue, hey, we have got a big, huge ass deficit that we've got to deal with, and giving money back and giving it out and all that stuff is short-sighted and idiotic, right? And you could argue that side of it as well. So, and I'm sure there are economists that are way smarter than me on this that could put up a good argument on either side of it.
Yeah. Tom? What's the best thing for the economy or the U.S.?
If it were my choice, I think we have to deal with the deficit before that we deal with stimulus and so forth. But it's easy for me to say, right? I'm not somebody making $60,000 a year trying to make ends meet every day. So I think you have to look at it through the lens of the person that's actually doing that. But my opinion is we have a serious issue with the deficit that we can't ignore. And not only this, but we have to cut spending. There's a lot of things. It's not just keeping the tariff money on this.
So what's your opinion?
Keep the money, pay down the deficit. How's that? How's that for clarity?
Thank you. Nick?
I look at any question like that against a timeline. And so I think what's best for the economy short term versus long term. Let's say short term is like a year. Well, let's say short term is like election cycle. So whether it's that 8 months from now or whether it's 3 years from now, or if we're looking at 25 years, that's something that I think we lose sight of oftentimes, like what is best for the economy long term. I'm going to take that approach, probably because of my age and the way, like the outlook that I have.
I have kids older than you.
Keep the money, pay it down, figure out a way to incentivize businesses in order to invest more. And whether that's some form of tax credits, whether that's some form of if you invest or if you do this, we're going to pay it back that way. Incentivize companies to, whether it's reshore, whether it's figure out different ways of investing in the economy, investing in their people for the long term. That's what I believe would be best for the economy. Might be painful in the long term. And again,
like it's an investment, right?
But yeah,
use it as an investment into the infrastructure and to the company and is that what you're saying, Nick?
That's what I would say, but do it through some form of a credit.
Okay.
Tom brought something like that up a couple months ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Incentivize through credit.
But long term, I think you're saying looking long term, deficit and all those things are more macro level things that have to be taken into account.
Yeah, definitely. Whether that's cut spending, whether that's really figure out ways to accelerate GDP growth through whether that's consumers and or businesses, that's what we need to be focused on. It's unfortunate, I think, because the tariff takes up so much time and energy. And my belief is that tariffs are being used as a painful mechanism in order to force businesses to bring all of means of production back to the United States. Like that's what I believe is really happening here. It's just extremely unfortunate in the short term on the amount of disruption. I was in DC earlier this week and I was with somebody who's very close to this. They work with customs and freight brokers. And we were going through and we're like, so what's a disruption you have? And they go, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So.
Well, yeah. So great comments. Appreciate you both sharing those ideas. I think I mentioned regularly here, Nick. I don't know if you've heard me say this before.
Yeah.
But in the overall grand scope of things with the current administration, I think it's important to remember what the tenets that this administration have said are important. Right. The first one was close the borders, stop fentanyl, balance trade.
Yep.
In reshoring, lower interest rates, boost the economy, lowers the deficit. GDP,
that's the focus.
Yep. Those are the issues. So if you go back and you look at those things, right, that's the underlying tenet for me of the likelihood that it's going to be a long time before we see dollars going out, because it doesn't repaying or refunding tariffs does not support those underlying tenets of what's wanted to be achieved.
Yeah.
And if you think about the idea, and everybody can have an opinion, I've stated it here. I believe that there's a reasonably tariffs are probably the best thing for us right now to get balanced trade. And balanced trade, no matter how you slice it, we have not had balanced trade in forever. So tariffs are the means that have been used. There's many different methods for them to use. I don't believe for 1 second that this administration is going to stop the use of tariffs even after 150 days. There's 3 other options for them in using other government groups with this. So I look at it as that from that standpoint. And then I look at the bigger picture, and I'm fully in alignment with both of you, is that because of my question that I asked you earlier, both of you, of who ultimately pays those tariffs, if what we're saying and if the research that's out there is right, that the average American is paid roughly, it's cost them about $1,700. Yeah, let's just go flood some incentive dollars back to the U.S. people that goes into the economy, that continues to boost the economy, that helps the GDP, doesn't risk the issue of impacting the deficit by flooding this money back. I think the balance and the smart thing comes out of this that says, yeah, you know what, let's hold on to this. We've got other tools that we're now using. And by the way, what they said is basically it wasn't that there wasn't a point in time that the Emergency Powers Act wasn't reasonable to use. It was, and it's what Congress said the week before is, hey, it's no longer reasonable to use that, even if it was before. So I think we could find ourselves in a spot where Emergency Powers Act could come back into play. So in my opinion, my answer to the question that you both answered was, I think the best scenario would be keep the money in helping lower the deficit, put a bunch of great incentives to businesses to onshore. Hopefully we get some interest rate reductions and we see this growth. And Nick, I'm going to ask you this, and Tom and I are both every day on the phone with distributors as well, as I think most of them are learning how to deal with this. I would almost think that, I'll ask you both if you have arguments on this to share. I would almost think there could be an internal discussion amongst CFOs and CEOs of large distribution companies that might be saying it might be best for us not to get any type of refund because they don't want to deal with the downstream ramifications.
Yeah, but how do you begin to divvy that out?
Right. And if I'm ABC, if I've got, if I work for TNK, Tom, Nick, and Kevin Distribution, that's $1 billion a year company, but I don't have sophisticated internal systems, and all of a sudden I've got a manufacturer that I'm partnered with that got a bunch of money back. Yeah. Everything that says to me says I need to go try and get my share of that, but I've got someone downstream that wants their share of that. Maybe it's just easier to just move on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. I think we should maybe move into some other
talk about marketing or e-commerce.
Yeah. Huh? Nick, did Kevin tell you this is like an 8-hour show?
Yeah. I got to clear my afternoon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I got friends watching that I'm talking to this afternoon.
Yeah.
Find their own way home from school, whatever you need to do. Right.
That's right. Yeah. Your wife will get the kids.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
We'll order a pizza and have it sent to you. We'll be talking at dinner.
Every Friday night is pizza night, not because we're fun parents, but because by the end of the week we're tired. That is the reality.
Is it pizza coming in, or do you make them sometimes?
Both.
Yeah. Very good.
I
bet you're a fun dad.
Yeah, come on, man. Life's better when you're fun.
That's it. Very good. All right, Tom, move us along. Stop somewhere.
Here, I think the next section, manufacturing distribution. Mm-hmm. This first one, we've already talked about this. Yep. I don't think we'll talk more about tariffs. The industrial distributors' year of discipline, and the global distribution market generates about $8 to $8.5 trillion a year, is expected to grow 4 to 5% annually through 2030. Is there any key points you wanted to hit on that article?
I think for me, it just says we're all serving the right market.
Yeah.
People don't think about it.
How many people do we talk to that want to grow 15% a year? A lot.
Yeah. What I'm seeing also is with M&A, especially in last year, there was a lot of M&A that came through. We're seeing that a lot within the building material space right now.
Sure.
There's a lot of focus on integration. How do you actually get that synergy coming from all of the work that's gone in and all the capital that's been invested? The discipline on making sure that follows through. That's going to be continue to be a big focus. And those who have not been doing M&A, I think can compete by doubling down on their processes and their value props.
Yeah.
And that's discipline. Again, the things that don't change.
Organic growth, right? I've been harping on organic growth for a year. And I think now more than ever, going back to our AI conversation, there is opportunity for major organic growth.
Yeah.
Within an organization.
Well, yes, absolutely. Nick, you brought up the M&A side of it. I would love to see some research, and I don't know exactly how they would quantify this, but we constantly are seeing the M&A component of things, and just wonder what percentage of M&As or just say acquisitions, right? Because there's a whole lot more acquisitions than mergers. Is what percentage of those pan out to be 80% of what they had hoped? My guess.
I think that's a very emotionally charged question for anyone who's involved in that. But it is something that I think should, needs to be stared in the face. I mean, as having a fiduciary responsibility of leading an organization forward, if M&A is part of that, it's not just the initial transaction. It's not just the first 6 months.
It's the integration.
This is a long-term play.
But isn't there? And I'll ask Kevin, or Nick, you and Kevin, you're more the experts in the industry. Isn't there really 3 ways of growth? M&A, right? Adding new branches, physical expansion, adding new territory, or organic growth, right? Optimizing and getting more out of what I'm already doing.
Sure.
Is that it? I mean, I don't
growing with the market.
Things like that. But.
Growing with the market. Or I would look at, you start to see other distributors. I mean, someone that we pay a lot of attention to with DSG, and Paul Kennedy shared pretty openly on whether it was your show or another one.
Let's say it was here.
It was here, focused on providing similar services to the geographies where we have trust and where we have infrastructure. So going multi-lines, bringing on different products, doing that through a disciplined approach, that it wouldn't make sense if you were, smaller and didn't have the infrastructure there. That's another way to look at growth here.
And by the way, I'm sure Paul has said that other places, but he has said that on this show. And Tom, I think, so M&A, greenfield, right? Maybe new opportunities, and then the organic component of it. And I think what's really interesting, and I love seeing this, is, the distributors who are, I think there's two sides of two multiple ways that people do this, but the people that are really embracing e-commerce, there's people that are embracing e-commerce that are truly looking for optimizing their business, expanding how they're servicing their customers, and growing in new markets, right? Because if you've got a warehouse that has a FedEx or a UPS account, which is just about everybody, right? Is you do some really unique things with e-commerce. Talk about greenfield. You don't have to go put a building in a new territory. You just find a way to market there. Now, there's other people that are doing e-commerce that said, hey, I bought a package that was available to me through my trade association or buying group, and I put some things up online, but they don't put a lot of focus on it. But I think there is some huge opportunity there. And you could look at that. I think Tom did part of your comment about organic growth with that. But those are the ways to grow.
Yep.
Well, I can't get through a day without 1 or 2 conversations about white space, upselling, cross-selling.
Yeah.
I mean, and way more conversation on this than we've ever had before, which is great. I welcome it, because I do think there's just, and if it's interesting, going back to your point, right, about the effectiveness of M&A integration, and even what we were hitting on earlier.
Totally.
I think if you invest right now at that organic level, the things we talked about, foundational things, getting data integration policies in place, your AI strategy in place, your, things that we've hit on earlier, processes, SOPs, wouldn't that make it a lot easier, you would think, to then integrate add the new branch or even acquire something, along the way?
I think the business reality is that most organizations they're trying to run as fast as they can. So you go back to, discipline, that word, that's a superpower. When there's shiny objects, when it's tempting to go and bolt on at a P&L level, the boots on the ground, branch to branch, those types of interactions, it requires discipline.
Yep, that's great. I mean, a great point.
Nick, have you ever? You probably haven't, because actually we just did a new video. I've got to send it to you. Tom's team built and it really expanded. We've had a tool called Revenue Expander for quite some time in our software platform, but they've just done a lot of it. And to Tom's point about the white space component, because I mean, we have a bunch of customers who are wanting to double every 5 years. We have a
Of course, yeah.
wonderful customer that we work with that they've doubled every 5 years for like the last 20 years. And it's really impressive to see. But historically, it's hire more salespeople, open a new branch, or acquisition, right? And to Tom's point, is really great. And, I started my career, working for a large distributor. And, I pat myself on the back a little bit because I believe I'm the only CEO and founder of a technology company that serves wholesale distribution who's ever literally run a territory, had a quota, and
I love it.
Loaded up an SUV full of samples on Monday morning and came back on Thursdays and did that. And, and I've been on the manufacturing side as well. But I have never met a salesperson that doesn't walk by more business than they have. And so when you can start using technology tools, our revenue expander tool, really literally it looks across a business and it says, hey, you know what? You're selling them this, but here's all these other categories of products that you're not selling them. And then, by the way, compared to other customers that you have, this customer is this % likely to buy these categories. So present this one first, right? Those are the types of things that when we start putting the right AI tools in place and the right disciplines in place and the right structure and the right mindset of a leadership team that says we have a really large distributor in the electrical market that we're working with right now, and their CEO's view of their use of our technology and other technologies that they'll add down the road is they want to be a Moneyball distributor. They want to be the Oakland A's, right? And those, I would say, are kind of few and far between. There's some discussion about it, but the people that are putting the money down are right now few and far between.
Oh yeah.
So, good. Why don't we jump into e-commerce and marketing? What appeals to you guys there?
I mean, I think in this area, you hear a lot about agentic AI, and that is the new thing that everyone's talking about, where it seems like it went from Gen AI to just AI, now agentic AI in this area. So I was with a group yesterday, they're in distribution on the investment side, run a bunch of companies, and I showed them some things. Like I asked who's actually like seen or like actually done a transaction with an agentic AI tool, and I showed them a tool that you can use. You can either do it with Perplexity, OpenAI has Atlas. I did it with Claude. And I just showed like what it actually looks like to say, I want to go buy this. And actually like driving the functionality, it goes out, it searches for it, it finds it, it checks it out. And then it says like, plug your credit card in here. The capabilities there, I do not know how many people are truly adopting that yet, either on the consumer side or on the B2B side. Does it exist? Is it something we need to think about? Yes. But I don't think this is, hey, this is widespread and you are behind if you are not doing this. I think that does a disservice by fear mongering. So when it says like B2B suppliers lag on agentic AI, I don't know if retailers or those who are we would consider at the forefront are really on this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you think about, right, maybe this is too old for you, Nick, but back in the day of e-commerce when
I feel shots taken at my age here, guys.
No, what you're
away with it.
Here's what you really should feel.
Tom.
Here's what you really should feel. You've got two guys who are 25 years older than you, who wish they were your age, but know what they know now.
Yeah, there you go,
right?
man. I'm sure
I wish you're 35, right?
Yeah,
yep. I wish I was 35 with my 60-year-old knowledge.
There we go. Well, Tom, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
That's okay. Anyway, if you remember back in the day, right, when e-commerce first came out and we were all afraid to put our credit card in. Oh, we can't put our credit card in.
Can't do that.
Get stolen, right? Or we're never
totally. Oh yeah.
Right? I think we're at that same place here with agentic, commerce. I don't know that I would feel comfortable having an agentic agent going through and making my purchasing decisions. And I feel like I would end up with a bunch of stuff I don't want or need along the way. Right. So I think we're at that same point. But yet once, we got over that in the e-commerce world, we have our credit card and everything now. That's there. And I think we'll end up seeing a similar transition in the agentic world where we get comfortable with it. It becomes part of it. We can count on it, right? It's trustworthy and reliable, and then we'll see more of it. But I agree with you, Nick. I don't think people are behind if you're not rapidly doing this right now.
I think it is incredibly powerful to go and use a system that it has agentic AI capabilities, like what we talked about, Perplexity Comet, OpenAI Atlas, or Claude has a Chrome plugin, and to actually watch it do a task, like go to an e-commerce site, shop, check out, as complex as it is. If your jaw doesn't hit the floor, then I don't know what's going to impress you more in 2026 so far. So it's a real thing that I believe anybody who owns the e-commerce function needs to be aware of. You're doing yourself and your organization a disservice if you're not aware of it, if you don't understand how it works, but do not feel behind if you are not doing it. If anything, go to your e-commerce providers and ask them what the functionalities are on their roadmap and what that's going to look like when they roll it out. That's what I would say there. I want to talk about that one that says CMOs want AI transformation, but few are upgrading their skills. Yep. I have an opinion. Kevin, yeah.
Can I hit pause for? I want to get there.
Sure.
But
I'm excited.
I want to unpack a little bit of something of what you said there a moment ago that I think is important. And this is where I think a lot of times distributors or specifically distributors are really missing the boat. Not all of them, but many. I think Gartner's most recent update is that now we're up to, I think 72% of B2B buyers are millennials.
Yep.
Right. And when we start thinking about e-commerce and those types of transactions, those are the people, as I describe it, that says, they took their girlfriend to the movies last night and bought their tickets on Fandango, and they took an Uber there, and they ordered DoorDash for lunch today at the office. Right? It's the world that they live in, and it's very different than us. I mean, I was talking to one of our client success managers at work recently about her daughter and the fact that she's more than happy to pay $20 to have a Starbucks delivered.
Yeah.
Right. And our thinking is, no, I'll bring a thermos to the office. And so we have this different thinking. And I think we've got this place that we live in now where we've historically thought B2B and B2C, and that is a very gray line right now that is going to become black. And we are going to be in a place where our B2B customer, because Joe that we brought, bagels to on Tuesday, or we got, went to the ball game with twice a year or whatever it is, Joe's going to retire soon, right? Not only is Joe's knowledge going to retire, but Joe's going to retire. And the guy that's replacing him, he doesn't have as much in common with you, the 50-year-old, guy that's bringing him some solutions and his partner. And I think these types of transactions that we're talking about, they're going to be looking to buy that way, right?
Yep.
And if you're on the front end of it, I've said this for a long time, right? If you're not on the front end of it as the large distributor that's established, the small guy that shows up that has an ORS NASCO account or an Ascendant account or whatever it might be, and has a very small warehouse of very specific things he stocks, but he's got e-commerce and then now agentic commerce nailed, got some huge opportunities out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think that plays into what I want to say here about the AI transformation, but fewer upgrading their skills. I believe that those in distribution who are creative we're on the precipice of them having a field day, just them being elevated within their organizations with technical capabilities to go and make things happen that previously haven't been possible because of skill sets, because of investments. And so I look at that one where if I'm a creative within a distribution company, and I've wanted to do things like I've wanted to implement chat on the website, I've wanted to build out collateral for the sales team, I've wanted to do this, I've wanted to do this. There is no better time than right now to put together a business case and be like, oh yeah, for $50 a month, I can go make all of that happen without adding any additional headcount.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited for the folks that I typically haven't worked with in my work that have led the marketing functions, unless it's been through e-commerce or something that's more technical. I'm so excited for them to continue to adopt various AI tools, off-the-shelf tools, in order to create better work output to drive their companies forward.
Mhm.
It's going to be an exciting time on everything, even stuff that's as simple as marketing collateral, newsletters, the quality of newsletters that go out. I think there's a huge opportunity in play for companies to lean into their LinkedIn presence as more B2B decisions go through that. And AI helps facilitate all of that more effectively, cheaper cost, higher output.
Well, and it also enables that, motivated champion to prototype or show
Amen.
examples like in minutes, right? That it's versus just some proposal that is nebulous that nobody understands what their vision is on that.
Amen. And I know both of you, Tom and Kevin, you guys have talked about this even with your organization, the ability for you to go from an idea to a finished product faster than ever at higher quality. At this point, you're playing on hard mode if you're not integrating these capabilities into how you work.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's funny. I think about one of our lead developers who was early as we started seeing these things probably 2 years ago, I think was a little anxious. Tom could speak to this better because he works for Tom. Was a little bit anxious about his career and where things at. And now he's just thriving.
Let's just
with
go.
his
Yeah.
outlet. He's just building stuff and coming up with ideas. And I would suggest, Tom, the guy I'm talking about has never been more productive. With really, really cool stuff. I mean, to the point that, Nick, that, the Lead Smart platform that it's called a global strategic OEM partner of Salesforce, right? So we use their platform, their security, and their cloud, but bring our solutions to distribution without distribution having to have a relationship with Salesforce in this setting. Tom and Justin were supposed to be this week, one of only 4 of Salesforce's global partners invited to an agent building and the future of Agentforce platform, because some of the stuff that our guys are building right now, unfortunately, that storm hit, so they canceled the meeting. But the amount of things that can be accomplished is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
Then, to your point, I mean, and I know you've been doing this for probably a year, but I'm just working on it now, is connecting Claude to Outlook and getting my recap every morning. I'll finish it this afternoon, right? Of getting my recap of my calendar and my emails when I wake up in the morning, and
again, yeah,
what we're able to do is pretty astounding. So it's good. Yeah. I think that leads what your comments about that kind of leads nicely to the next article that was a Harvard Business Review article about upending marketing, talking about on multiple different fronts. And it's interesting though, and I don't know if you're seeing this, Nick, in your discussions, and I'm kind of thinking, is like, it does seem like there's a lot of marketing people that are saying, hey, I can accomplish a lot with this. And maybe that is a a front door entry into this for a lot of organizations.
Yeah. I mean, to empower the people who have a vision on how to better serve customers, the technical part of, conversational AI, how do we get our products to better show up within AI engines? I think the horizon on that is a little longer than most technology companies would like you to think. Mm-hmm. I think the human adoption curve is going to take longer. I'd start with, as a marketing team or professional, and we want to show up better to our customers, there are simple, non-technical things that you can do that build the foundation, the capability, the trust, both of the organization and of the technology that you're using in order to go drive this forward. And it's stuff that we typically like to skip over.
Right.
So
good. Let's in the few minutes we have left today, let's kind of jump ahead in our technology, robotics section, and cybersecurity section. Kind of a cool article about what Toyota is doing with some robots, huh?
Yeah, it's really neat. I think humanoids gets a lot of headlines right now. If you show anybody a humanoid video of a robot doing it, it's impressive. Where the benefits coming from, at least in the organizations that I've seen, automated conveyors, even light picking or visual picking type of technologies. I'll tell you, I still get a little freaked out when I go to Sam's Club and I see that machine driving around cleaning the floors. It's totally automated. I feel like when I do that, I go, how do we trust these things? That the robotics is going to continue to advance, and it should definitely be something that people are aware of.
So Nick, are you excited about self-driving cars?
Oh, get me in one. If I can either sleep or like be like working on my computer.
Yeah.
I take a Waymo every time I go to what is it?
I was thinking of that on my drive
San Fran
down to Orange County. Is like I can't have a self-driving car fast enough.
So I've got two sides of that for me. So Tuesday morning, I'm going to drive up to Tom's office to spend some time with him, just kind of away from our. We're going to seclude ourselves or sequester ourselves to get a couple things done. And that drive, I would love nothing more than to be sitting on my laptop or sleeping. Tomorrow, I'm going to drive through a mountain canyon with a river that runs through part of it to visit my mother, and I want to be driving the car because I enjoy it, right? And so I'm a little bit torn on that component of it. Question related to that, Nick, is what's the time frame in your mind? I'm going back and today is our day of predictions from all
I know, man. I listened to the prediction one that you had with the guys earlier this year. We're going to hold me to it.
At what point are we 6 months, 18 months, 36 months away from you having a humanoid robot that is weeding your yard and cleaning your barbecue? How far away are we from that?
And I think socially acceptable or capability wise, end of the decade for sure. So 2030. I think socially acceptable. It's going to take a lot longer than that.
Okay, Tom.
I'll go the under. I certainly think, yes, I agree at the mainstream that'll be true, but I think in the early adopters will start you'll see a lot more of these in the next couple of years.
18 to 24 months, there will be a humanoid robot available that can fold your laundry and wash your car and weed your garden while you sleep.
I'm going to go more specific. When do you think you're going to see a humanoid robot show up at the first distribution conference?
Yeah.
What are you going to see that at a booth there? What?
Oh, I think that there is probably discussions from Tesla right now about their Optimus robot coming before you know it in that setting, because the reality of it is, and this is what people miss is, and I remember Mark Cuban saying this like 6-7 years ago about huge percentage of his investments are going towards sensors.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yep. And if you think about the sensors, whether it's smoke or fire, or carbon monoxide, the sensors that can be put into one of these things, and you look at, what wholesale distributors are doing already. I mean, I think about, one of our customers and good friends at APR Supply in Pennsylvania. They've got their huge robotics center that's packing boxes and fulfilling orders and so forth without humanoid robots, and you can add those really, really great. So anyways, totally. Let's wind this down real quick. What a great day, Nick. Thanks for
this is great, guys.
We missed some cool articles about some AI threats with cybersecurity being used in that setting.
We'll have to do this again. I thought you had some great input, Nick.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for inviting me on here. The tariff aspect, I'll tell you, that is one area that, man, it's totally get and understand the intention behind it, but we're spending a lot of time and energy when I'm optimistic about the long-term future. That's what I'm banking on in this industry, in the country overall. So appreciate the conversation. This has been awesome.
Hey, before you go, Nick, Tom, can you envision 10 years from now something that's a television commercial that says Nick Pericle for Senate? I could totally see that. Can see it now.
I'll put that on the prediction market. Yeah.
Put that in poly market. We'll see. We'll see. A couple things got to fall in place. We'll see.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for being with us. We appreciate everybody that joins us each week. If you are in wholesale distribution and manufacturing, and you're thinking about technology in the future, and you are not following Nick on LinkedIn, you are missing some great content. I don't know anybody that's more prolific with insightful content than Nick. I aspire to one day have the amount of content that's relevant that Nick publishes. So congratulations for the the place that you've achieved in the relevance with that, Nick. And then congratulations again on your new business.
Thank you, guys.
Great to be with us again. We do this every week. I'm Kevin Brown here with our good friend Nick and Tom. We appreciate you being with us. Be kind, be safe, and do great things.
Thanks, everyone.